Hello everybody, sorry, McEdam from the future here. I just want to state that this video was originally part of a segment of a much longer video talking about all stories of the Company of Friends anthology. Sadly, however, due because the video was extremely long, I was having trouble exporting it. So I've decided to release them separately. This one will be a part of it. So enjoy. I'll see you next time. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the anthology story A Company of Friends, written by Lawrence Parkins, Stephen Cole, Alan Barnes and Jonathan Morris. Now, like I said, this is an anthology story. It's 4 episodes, each containing their own story. Now, there's a lot of interesting facts about this story. For starters, it actually takes place through different times of the Eighth Doctor's life. But luckily, they're all at the early stages of his travellings, so we can listen to these back to back, which makes life a lot more easy for me. Now, originally in the monthly range of Big Finish audio adventures, in which they released one audio, sometimes 2 audios a month, the Eighth Doctor was once travelling with the companion Charlie Pollard, who we've talked about during my 6th Doctor era. Sadly, however, I have not got any Charlie Pollard and 8th Doctor adventures. To those of you who are fans of that particular era, I do apologise. However, I wanted to state that era because in those adventures, the 8th Doctor mentions that he once travelled with Mary Shelley, the writer of Frankenstein. Now, later on in like real world now, after Charlie Pollard left the 8th Doctor to travel with the 6th Doctor, which we've tackled, the 8th Doctor had his own spin-off range where he would travel with Lucy Miller, which we will be tackling too, thankfully. However, a lot of people were very intrigued to get the 8th Doctor back into the monthly range where he was like the Doctor for a while. The culmination of this was the Company of Friends. And what it does is very interesting. Each story features a unique companion who's never travelled with the 8th Doctor in audio before. However, at least the first 3 stories feature companions from other media. You see, the 8th Doctor is the expanded media Doctor for a while, until the invention of the War Doctor. Essentially, because Paul McCann only played him on screen in the TV movie, it allowed for expanded media to basically treat the Doctor, their era in the comic books and novels, as like the main Doctor for a while. So the first 3 companions, the first one is actually Bernice Summerfield, who actually teamed up with the 8th Doctor in the last Virgin New Adventure Doctor Who novel. I believe it's called like The Dying Days or something like that. There's a story with a character called Fritz, who appeared as the 8th Doctor's companion during the BBC Books, where BBC Books started publishing novels. Another character, Lizzie, is actually the companion of the 8th Doctor in comic books, making her only audio appearance in this story. Actually, Fitz is also only makes his appearance in this story. And the last story, the Mary Shelley story, is the combination of the idea that the 8th Doctor is travelled with the creator of Frankenstein herself. This is where we finally get to see that adventure. All of these stories take place way early on, before, in terms of Big Finish anyway, this is chronologically the starting point of the Eighth Doctor. And it's really irritating in a way, because that means, at least with the Fitz and the Lizzie stories, they just sort of have to appear. Like, the Doctor's already travelling with her. We don't get any backstory. So when you go into this story, you do have to know who these characters are. Or at least, I'm guessing, when I'm making this segment of the video, I haven't actually listened to any story yet in the set. So I would presume it'll be one of those cases. If you're only interested in the Mary Shelley story to find out how she became the Doctor's companion, you'd be happy to know that Big Finish has actually released that episode as its own thing, and I believe it's free, but don't quote me on that. And after this, she would get a trilogy of stories, which we will be tackling every single one of them. So look forward to them. So yeah, so this is the official Big Finish CD cover with Paul McGann's face really haunting there, and our four companions. They had a missed opportunity to call this the Four Companions. And like always, I made my own, well actually I found this on the internet. This is from DeviantArt, DVD cover. And I don't know, I really like it. Here's the spine if anyone is interested. Very nice. And here's the back, which lists each story and each summary of each story on the back there. Very tidy. So, on to the first story, which is... I can't remember which story is the first one. Doesn't actually say... Benny's story. So let's delve into Benny's story. So, the first story, written by Lawrence Parkins, is entitled Bernice's Story. Each story is the companion's name, story. Fun fact, Lawrence Parkins is also the writer of the novel in which the Eighth Doctor originally meets Bernice Summerfield. So, very nice continuity there in terms of like real life. Before I even start with the story, this will introduce, at least from our point of view, a new theme song. Big Finish didn't get the rights to use the TV movie theme, so when it came to the audio dramas, the Eighth Doctor had a few theme songs during his era. And this one is a cross between the 2005 rendition and the kind of like the John Pertwee era, Tom Baker era intro. It has that particular sting to it. I actually really like it. It's not as good as the TV movie, but as I said, that's my favourite rendition of the theme, so I won't hold it against it, but it's a really good theme and I really like it. I don't know who did the music in this. I believe this is the Nicholas Briggs's version of the theme, but yeah, onto the story itself. The story starts off with Bernice being hired by this woman, Valentina or something like that, to research. They're trying to track down a particular energy source. Bernice finds this an exact duplicate of the energy source they're actually looking for. It's actually trapped in a bunch of coal with a bunch of fossils and stuff. Bernice finds the skeleton of what appears to be a tiger, and she also finds the thing that they are looking for. It just so happens to be a TARDIS key. And when Valentina, she picks it up and she grabs onto it, it releases an energy source which actually attracts the TARDIS to the key, to which the Eighth Doctor steps out and introduces himself, to which Bernice is glad to see him because this incarnation and Bernice have met before. In fact, the story starts off with actually an introduction of Bernice. Is like, hello, my name is Bernice Summerfield, I'm an archaeologist, da, 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 da. And in that little segment, she actually implied that her and the Doctor had had a sexual encounter. So it's nice to know that the Doctor has a particular type, archaeologist females, because River Song and Bernice Summerfield are very similar in terms of personality. If you like River Song, you like Bernice Summerfield. That's the idea I'm grabbing to. And essentially, some wibbly-wobbly time stuff happens as the Doctor and Bernice run away from some robots which Valentina is using, and she actually gets the access to the TARDIS. She has a TARDIS key. She can get in with her assistant, and she basically has this master plan. She's not after the Doctor, she's after the TARDIS. Makes a nice little change. This means that for the rest of the story, it's mainly the 8th Doctor and Bernice by themselves basically catching up. Now, the performances in this story, I think, will really make this story work. Lisa Barrowman and Paul McGann work off each other amazingly. Paul McGann, his performance is very, I don't want to say Shakespearean. I think I'm getting more of the flavour of his voice when I think Shakespearean, but he has a very softer tone than most Doctors. It reminds me a lot more than the 5th Doctor, if I was comparing him with any other Doctor previously from this era. He's nice, he's sweet, he's innocent, but he also gravitases to the situation. So when he feels that there's danger, he panics in a sense, and he gets angry, and he starts like basically debating with people. Unlike, say, the 7th Doctor, who would manipulate the characters just to defeat the villain, and would essentially try and learn things, anything, and try and get more information is thing. So basically, to sum her up, the 8th Doctor and 7th Doctor are on the complete opposite scales in terms of Doctors. And Paul McGann absolutely nails it. Now, doing this marathon in order, I was a bit worried going in that Paul McGann's voice would have aged a little bit, or his performance, Big Finish, would decide to alter his performance enough that it'd be unrecognisable from the TV movie, because the TV movie wasn't particularly loved by the fan base after a period of time, as I stated in the TV movie about people's opinions on that. But luckily, it's still his incarnation of the Doctor. It's still the same Doctor we were shown in the TV movie. It's just now he's a lot more stable. He's not suffering from like regeneration energy, and he is essentially starting again. You know, this is an earlier aspect of the 7th Doctor. Now, their story and the villain story is kind of segmented to each storyline until like they meet up in the end. That's the back of the ranch storytelling. With the villain, she basically puts a device onto the TARDIS console, which basically breaks down the defences of a TARDIS. And she seems to have some sort of mysterious plan, but this has unseen consequences. And the 7th Doctor, and the 8th Doctor can feel these effects, and it's actually, him and Bernice actually have travel in time in a segment. When Bernice mentions the planet that they're on, the Doctor is confused at first, as he remembers this place as a magnificent jungle. He mentions that he first is like, I tracked it on the TARDIS's screen, we should be in a jungle. Then Bernice mentions the name of this planet and that it's just like a wasteland of mines and stuff. When the Doctor recognises the name, it's like, no, that's an icy planet. What's going on? None of this means to make sense. Okay, so we need to like back up and back forth those steps. And we get a lot of great banter between the Doctor and Bernice. And I think mainly the strength of the story is its performances. The script gives them a lot of time to bounce off each other, allow Paul McGann and Lisa Barrowman to banter off. Valentina has an assistant that she bounce off, and they work extremely well in terms of a performance. But I think what lets this particular segment of the anthology down is that the writing, I think, is a little bit weak. If you take out the praise of the actors, the script the script itself, if you just, as a complete like robot in a sense, if you look through the stories like a robot, you would kind of see that the story just kind of stalls until the Doctor and Bernice get back into the TARDIS to try and figure out what's going on. As there's not real much action or anything, it's just our characters talking, bouncing off each other, and not really much there in terms of plot. Now, not to say that it's bad, I just think it's a little bit weak. But the characters really work off each other. And when the Doctor and Bernice, they encounter actually a lion, when they had some sort of an effect of a time bubble, so they transform themselves into the past, where it turns out it is actually a jungle planet. And that when they're running away from this tiger, the Doctor drops the TARDIS key, and that's how it landed in the fossils of this planet. But because the Doctor's a Time Lord, he can sense like the surroundings of the time bubble, which he can feel is forming because somebody's tampering with the TARDIS. And so he basically navigates Bernice back into the timeline that they originally appeared from, right outside the TARDIS. And so they go inside the TARDIS, where it's revealed that Valentina is actually somebody who's studied TARDISes and time travel for a living, and she's come up to a conclusion after reading ancient celestial texts that the TARDISes are sentient creatures, which is actually really great because this story came out in 2009. So this was actually, I think, 2 years before the Doctor's wife really put that idea forward in terms of the TV. So that's some really nice little detail there. And basically she believes that the Time Lords enslaved the sentient creatures that inhabit inside TARDISes. So she basically hates Time Lords, thinking that they're basically slave owners, and tries to free the TARDIS. And the Doctor basically explains, it's like, no, this is the relationship between a Time Lord and their TARDIS it's a much more complex, it's more like a symbiotic relationship, if anything else. And throughout the story, characters, or at least Bernice and Valentina's assistant, they can see this face seemingly appearing, and when they touch creatures like a tiger and the assistant, they seem to age to death. These are actually creatures from an alternative dimension who feed off a different energy source than ones that the Time Lords are known to when it comes to their relationship with time. And so these creatures cannot be seen by Time Lords, and actually vice versa. But they can feed off humans, and they actually absorb like all of their like age, I guess. So basically, in that sense, they're kind of like weeping angels. And Valentina originally believes that these are the sentient living soul of a TARDIS. She believes that these creatures is actually the TARDIS being free, until the Doctor's like, right, these are these are not what you think they are. And they actually try and get Valentina, who then realises, and the Doctor pulls her out and tells him to go outside the TARDIS. And then we get a little discussion between Bernice and Valentina, in which they discuss about the ratifications of her actions, and that like they don't know what the Doctor's doing inside the TARDIS, and whether he's going to sacrifice himself to defeat these creatures, which he later dubbed time sharks. Very nice. But luckily, the Doctor comes out scot-free and basically states that they tried feeding on him, but basically because they are completely different, have a completely different relationship in terms of time, he gave the creatures indigestion, shoving them back into their own dimension. And the story ends with Bernice basically as like the Doctor offering Bernice to like, right, okay, travel with me again, like the good old days. And Bernice is like, no, I've grown up now, I've got a job, I have a child, and you know, I need to grow up now, I need to mature. And the Doctor's like, okay, I understand, you're a very mature woman now, I understand, so this is goodbye. And that's Bernice's story. Overall, I think the actual script itself, if you took the script, I think it might have been pretty weak. The villain is kind of a mustache twirling, I will free the TARDIS, in terms of the way she's written. But I think what stops the story from being terrible is its fantastic performances, and the fact that the script, despite being low on plot, is great with character, and Bernice and the Eighth Doctor really bounce off each other very well, and Paul McGann and Lisa Barrowman, oh, absolutely brilliant. So there you go, that's the Bernice story. Now on to the next story, Fitz's story.